seen some of the books they're being shown?
Have you been to a classroom?
No. Have you seen some of the books for 3-year-olds and 10-year-olds? I mean,
Don't touch me. Look at the devil. Don't touch me. Don't touch me. Don't touch me. Don't touch me.
Right? They tried to swing at him. He pushed them. The cops took him. For what reason? They didn't know the full story. He's a 17-year-old. Yeah. So even if he's still 1 year and he's gonna be adult, that's not right. Yeah. And they talk about love. If love is love, water is water. Drink from the toilet.
I'm still here for Rebel News on location once again here at City Hall in Calgary. Last week we saw a protest with about 300 people gathered in opposition to mandatory LGBTQ indoctrination in schools. A few dozen people appeared then, though the event remained largely peaceful. Today, well in advance of the event, we actually have a large crowd of counter-protesters. They've gathered in the area where this protest was planned to take place. We've also noticed a few of them covering their faces. So we will see. Hopefully things remain peaceful as they were last time, but it's hard to say with the crowd already mounting. Perhaps a little bit more of an aggressive counter-protest this week. We're going to be here on location all evening covering this event and bringing you updates both in this report and live on Twitter as they unfold. So I guess first off, just my question for you is, what is the sort of hope, what's the outcome that folks are hoping for here? Obviously standing up against this sort of mandatory indoctrination, but what is your ultimate desire and outcome from this?
My main thing is actually leaving the kids alone, not to be forced into somebody else's ideology. I'm not against these people personally, it has nothing to do with me, but to be forced to teach our children in our own school, in our own private school, that's my main problem. I'm a school teacher and I don't agree with this be forced upon my children in my own private school. And I know that for the private schools, if they do not accept the idea being taught in the school, we're going to be, some funding is going to be removed from the schools. We're not going to be treated like any other school. That's my main thing. Just leave the kids alone. So
I'm once again joined by Mahmoud, the organizer of this event. This is the second sort of big event that everyone has been invited out to. I just wanted to ask you, obviously you're standing against the sort of forced indoctrination of LGBTQ ideologies within schools, but what is your sort of desired outcome here? What are you hoping? What can put an end to the protests? What do you want to see?
I'll be honest with you, we need to put a stop for this bureaucratic system, from Alberta Board of Education to Alberta Teacher Association. They funded so much into politics instead of their funding so much into our schools education and stuff like this. For the past years, they're promoting so much in their social media about pride. There's the Christmas we call in Canada, there's Canada Day, there's so many events. We don't see this happening, and this is so sad. We don't want our kids to be brainwashed. Everybody talking about brainwash, but our kids just be free spirit and decide whatever they want to do. When they have the legal age to stand for what they believe, we'll support their choice. We're the people who brought those kids to life. We're not like pro-abortion who want to kill infant in their mom's womb. So we brought our kids to life. We know about our kids more than anyone could tell us.
Genocide to people! Genocide to people! بس لا ما فيك تسبيهم عرفتي؟ احنا ما سبيناهم احنا قلنا
Their perspective is that they're concerned that indoctrination is taking place in school. What's your sort of response to that, and why are you here counter-protesting?
So I'm counter-protesting because I'm part of the community and so is my child. And I also know that the group organizing this isn't necessarily a group, it's Mamoun Mora. And he's been angry with me personally for standing at a masjid gym at an anti-hate event saying, please don't hate. And I've read the curriculum and I've read what it's about, and I think that he's using newcomers and people that don't understand and making them more vulnerable than they need to be.
Now, I understand that. Have you seen some of the content? Perhaps not what's in the curriculum, but like some of the more, not all drag queen story hours, but some where there's inappropriate content, or some of the books that contain pornographic content. And do you see why they might be concerned? Maybe not about this, but about that?
The thing that I think they're concerned about is that they don't want to lose the integrity of their religion and culture here. And I do understand that, but I think it's being misrepresented by simple slogans like leave our kids alone.
Boys and growing men are being told that they can magically transform into women. A concept that is brought up so casually as if it isn't weighed down with severe consequences. Tell me, how can a man become a woman if you guys can't even define what a woman is?
Join us
protest with us, it's a cause for our kids. It's not a cause for anything hatred. It just leave our kids alone. That's the thing. I'm against what they say out of that context. To me, leave the kids alone. Let them choose whatever they want to do. Let the schools, how they were from 1,000 years ago, just learn mathematics, science, and other stuff. Not to learn they're transgender or other stuff. Leave the kids teach. It's our right to teach them. If they don't accept this, then they're hatred. And I know a lot of them are good, and I have a lot of friends of them. So they have to respect our rights. We respect their rights. We're in Canada. We are all equal here.
Whatever you do in your house is your business. But that child at 4 or 5 years old shouldn't be thinking whether they're a male or a female. They're too young. Have you seen some of the books they're being shown?
Have you been to a classroom?
No. Have you seen some of the books for 3-year-olds and 10-year-olds?
Then don't visit a classroom. Yes. Okay. We go to school as well.
If you don't mind me asking, definitely probably the majority of what you're talking about may seem innocuous, but I think that there has been, if you keep an eye into social media, there probably are some elements of the LGBTQ who are pushing stuff maybe that's not age appropriate. Is there like a line in the sand like...
Oh, of course. And the laws for appropriateness should stay the same, absolutely. And, you know, from what I understand, they start teaching human sexuality at around 3rd or 4th grade, and there are still permission slips to get in and out of that. I work with a lot of grade 3, 4 children, so I'm about the age where they start learning that stuff. And I genuinely don't think that anything that is being involved in the school systems is inappropriate. I mean, book publishings are also incredibly strict about what you're allowed to put into children's books and stuff like that. And I do understand there are 1 or 2 instances on social media, and also Pride as an event. There's this huge issue about Pride. I do just think a lot of this fear is very misguided.
Well, things continue to escalate here. A very different scene than we saw last week. Last week there were probably about 300 protesters with only about a couple dozen counter-protesters. This week we're seeing about 100, 150 on each side. Things have escalated. The counter-protesters seem to be advancing. There is a police line here trying to keep the peace, but it seems as though things are escalating. Hopefully things will remain peaceful. We will be here on location providing updates as they unfold.
Hey, shut up! I don't Where are we going to split it up?
Well, so, I think it's, I mean, I know that's not
look at the devil. Don't touch me! 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 I don't give a shit! Don't touch me!
Well, we unfortunately did see one sort of altercation resulting in police intervention. The individual was spoken to briefly and released. He was not detained or taken into custody. So it seems as this protest is wrapping up that there will be no arrests, at least as of yet today. We attempted to speak to the officers to garner a bit of insight as to what happened. They weren't really willing to comment, or at least stated that they hadn't really seen what had gone down.
So what happened basically is I had my friend, all right, his name is Yusuf, he's 17 years old, right? The kid is good. I know him personally, right? He goes to the mosque, he actually supports, he reads the Quran, he tries his best. He's actually newly converted, right? And nobody actually told him nothing. He actually read the Quran himself and he converted. I, myself, I'm a student of CIA, Crime Intelligence Analysis, right? I'm taking right now summer school, thank God, and I'm going to my 3rd year, right? My 3rd year, and I know the criminal law, and I know my rights like the back of my hand better than these cops, all right? And I talked to them. He told me that I'm somehow instigating his investigation. I asked him what it is. He didn't want to tell me, and he pushed me. He put his hands on me. He shouldn't have done that, right? The reason is I'm sitting up for my friend. In fact, he's more than a friend to me. He's my brother. All right? What I hate is for these predators who put their agenda to little schools, they push it down the throats of the little kids who don't know the right between right and wrong right now, right? 4th graders, 5th graders, even if they're 8th graders, right? Even if they understand right and wrong, it doesn't matter. You like getting fucked in the ass, that's not our problem. Do that in private. Be proud all you want. Don't push it against us. And then you say it's not against your kids. We're not attacking your kids. You're a liar. You're mentally molested. That's not our fault.
And so did you see what actually happened? There was a pushing match, or what actually happened?
I did. Okay. So basically what happened is my brother, Yusuf, accidentally, he didn't actually instigate it. He just basically stepped on the rainbow flag, right? I'm not saying if he meant it, he did it, but he accidentally did it, right? And they took him. Right? They tried to swing at him. He pushed them. The cops took him. For what reason? They didn't know the full story.
And who was it? Adults or was it other kids? Who was pushing?
Adults. It was adults against him. He's a 17-year-old.
Yeah.
So even if he's still 1 year and he's gonna be adult, that's not right.
Yeah.
And they talk about love. If love is love, water is water. Drink from the toilet.
This is the fucking police in Canada. How's this doing?
So a little bit of tension here, to say the very least. A number of police sort of headed over. There's a bit of an altercation, bordering on a little bit of pushing and shoving. Ultimately, though, a few people on their motorcycles stopped and were watching the protest for just a few minutes, and they actually received significant tickets. I'm hearing like $1,000 tickets. They're alleging that they're being targeted because they were supporting and attending this protest, pointing out that when LGBTQ protesters were on the streets, they weren't being ticketed or targeted at all. Now, this is just their perspective. We'll touch base with some of the folks, see if we can garner any more. It seems like for the time being, though, they did receive seemingly somewhat valid tickets, but the question is whether they're being targeted because of who they support.
We got videos of them saying they're going to beat up a 12-year-old girl. They're refusing to arrest them.
Yes, and so if we see them doing that, what are we going to do? If the police don't do anything, then we get
of them saying they want to beat up a 12-year-old girl, and the officer wants us to move over here and refuse to arrest them. What kind of bullshit is that?
Basically, what's happening is we're standing on the sidewalk and they're telling us to move, and we're getting threatened to get arrested because they're shoving matches. Okay, so shoving matches, that means that both parties are shoving. So why doesn't the other party get talked to as well? About 5 of us or 6 of us got pulled over. Hey, you're gonna get arrested if you don't keep it. We're not doing anything wrong.
As parents across this country continue to be concerned about LGBTQ indoctrinations in school, we're going to be covering protests right across the country, protests like these, and bringing you those stories at StopClassroomGrooming.com.